You've probably felt it before, that quiet frustration of living inside the same emotional loop. You wake up, you try to do things differently, and yet somehow, the day ends in the same familiar feeling. The same fear, the same tension, the same invisible wall. It's not that you're broken. It's not that you've failed. It's that you're living in a program you didn't write. Your mind, this vast electric field of memories, emotions, and patterns, was coded long before you could choose. The first lines of that code were written when you were a child. By voices you didn't question, by energies you couldn't name, by moments that imprinted not just on your thoughts, but on your cells. Think about it. When you touch something hot, you pull your hand away. The body learns through pain. But the same happens in the invisible world of emotions. When you were ignored, your brain recorded. Attention equals survival. I must become quiet. When you were punished for expressing emotion, your nervous system wrote, feeling is unsafe. And when love was given only when you performed or pleased, the program became, I must earn worth. These are not conscious choices. They are background codes, written in the language of survival, not freedom. And those codes have been running every single day, shaping how you see, feel, love, and act. The truth is, your brain works like a computer, but your consciousness is the one typing. The brain is hardware, neurons, synapses, electric impulses. But the software, the operating system, is made of beliefs, emotions, and memories. Every experience you've ever had has added another layer to that system. The words your parents spoke, the emotions you felt but couldn't express, the moments of joy that taught you love is safe, or the moments of betrayal that convinced you it's not. Each one became data. And now, years later, that data has become your default settings. You think you're making choices, but most of them are automated. You think you're reacting to the present, but your body is reliving the past. Science calls this the subconscious mind, the vast field of stored information that determines 95% of your behavior. Spirituality calls it the unseen field, the energetic memory of the soul. Both are talking about the same thing, the invisible code beneath the surface of consciousness. When you start seeing it like that, something changes. You realize that most people aren't living life. They're running scripts inherited from generations before them. Scripts written by trauma, culture, fear, and silence. A child who grows up hearing that money is hard to earn becomes an adult who subconsciously resists abundance. A person who witnessed anger explode into violence may associate power with danger and dim their light. To stay safe, someone abandoned emotionally as a child might chase love with desperation, mistaking attachment for connection. Every emotional scar becomes a command line, and the subconscious follows commands with perfect obedience. But here's the miracle and the pain. Your mind doesn't know the difference between the past and the present. When you remember an event, your brain lights up the same regions as when you lived it. That means your body, your chemistry, your hormones, your heartbeat relives the same reality again and again, as if the trauma never ended. So you're not haunted because you're weak. You're haunted because your biology is loyal. It's still trying to protect you from the threat that doesn't exist anymore. That's why you might feel sudden anxiety in safe spaces. That's why you might sabotage joy the moment it appears. Because, to the old program, peace feels unfamiliar, and the body trusts the familiar more than the free. Epigenetics now confirms what ancient mystics always intuited. You carry not only your own stories, but the echoes of those who came before you. Genes are not destiny. They are switchers, waiting for signals. And trauma, whether personal or ancestral, can turn those switchers on or off. That means a fear that lives in you might not have started with you. It could have been born in a grandmother's silence, a war your lineage survived, a grief never spoken. Modern experiments have shown this vividly. Rats exposed to the scent of cherry blossoms, paired with electric shock, began to fear the scent. Generations later, their offspring, who had never been shocked, still froze when they smelled cherry blossoms. You see, memory isn't only mental, it's molecular. You are carrying code, written by history itself. So when you feel fear with no reason, exhaustion that doesn't belong to your lifetime, or grief that seems too vast for your own story, maybe it's not just you. Maybe it's the system remembering. And that realization isn't meant to weigh you down, it's meant to free you. Because once you see the code, you can rewrite it. Every pattern that shaped you, scarcity, self-doubt, fear, guilt, is not a sentence, it's software. And software can be updated. It can be transcended, but only through awareness. Awareness is the first crack in the code. It's when you pause long enough to witness your thoughts instead of drowning in them. It's when you catch yourself reacting in the same way, and instead of judging it, you get curious. Why does this feel so familiar? Who taught me this reaction? Whose belief am I repeating? That moment of observation is sacred, because the observer is not the program. The one who sees the thought is not the thought itself. And that is where freedom begins. You might not realize it yet, but by simply listening, by being aware of this concept, you've already initiated a neurological shift. Your brain is mapping new connections, questioning, reevaluating, opening new circuits. The old code resists, but the new awareness persists. It grows quietly, like light entering a dark room. This is the first stage of reprogramming, recognition. You can't change what you can't see. But once you see, you can no longer unsee. And that's what this journey is about. Remembering that the mind isn't the master, it's the tool. The programs aren't permanent, they're protective. And the moment you begin to see them clearly, the rewriting begins not as an act of force, but as an act of love. Because the truth is, the mind was never your prison. It was the wall built around a wound, waiting for your light to notice it. When you start to observe your thoughts instead of obeying them, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You start to see the invisible structure behind your life, the code beneath consciousness. It's easy to imagine your mind as something mystical, abstract, untouchable. But in truth, it's both mystical and mechanical. Your brain, this vast network of 86 billion neurons, is an electrical cathedral where experience becomes matter. Every thought you repeat is like a current that carves a neural pathway, a groove of probability. Every emotion is a chemical signal that tells your body, this is who we are. Over time, these signals form loops. The more often a loop is activated, the stronger it becomes. That's why certain patterns feel automatic, why you might reach for your phone when anxious, or shut down when criticized, or distrust peace, because chaos feels like home. Your mind is not betraying you. It's protecting you according to the code it learned. And that code was written in a very specific way. From the moment you were born, your brain was in a state called theta, the same state used in hypnosis. It's a frequency of pure absorption. Between birth and age 7, your subconscious was wide open, recording every sound, every facial expression, every vibration in the room. You weren't analyzing, you were downloading. You absorbed not just words, but energy. If your caregivers were anxious, you learned anxiety as a frequency. If they were emotionally distant, you learned detachment as safety. If they were loving but unpredictable, you learned to earn affection as survival. And all of it, every sigh, every silence, every glance, became part of your programming. Not because you were weak, but because nature designed you to adapt. Adaptation is survival. Even when it hurts, even when it limits you. The child who wasn't hugged enough becomes the adult who doesn't trust touch. The one who grew up in scarcity becomes the adult who feels guilty for abundance. The one who saw anger destroy becomes the adult who suppresses truth. These are not personality traits. They are safety strategies written into your subconscious operating system. You can think of the subconscious mind as a loyal assistant who never sleeps. It doesn't reason or question. It executes. It says, "You felt unsafe when you spoke your truth." Noted, will keep you silent to protect you. Or, "You were rejected when you expressed need." Noted, will make you independent to the point of isolation. It's not malicious, it's mechanical. It's doing its job, keeping you alive within the emotional laws of your childhood. But what once ensured survival may now be the very thing keeping you small. This is why trauma is not just an event, it's a code. A car accident, a heartbreak, a betrayal. These are moments where the emotional charge was too great to process consciously. So the subconscious took over, storing it like an encrypted file. Never again. It then creates patterns to prevent that pain, often replicating the very pain it fears. You see, trauma isn't only remembered, it's rehearsed. Each time you recall it, your brain fires the same neurons, releases the same chemistry, and your body believes it's happening again. That's how trauma becomes identity. It's not that you want to suffer, it's that your body has memorized suffering as normal. Now, enter the science of epigenetics, the bridge between biology and belief. For centuries, we thought genes were fate, that we were victims of DNA. But now we know, genes are like piano keys, and environment is the pianist. The melody changes depending on what's being played, and trauma plays the same note, generation after generation until someone changes the song. Epigenetics shows us that emotional experiences can literally mark our genes, turning some on, silencing others. And those changes can be passed down. So, if your great-grandmother lived in constant fear, her nervous system adapted for hypervigilance. Her children and their children might inherit heightened sensitivity to stress, not as a curse, but as an unhealed echo. It's not metaphor, it's molecular. Her fear wrote chemical notes on your DNA, like footnotes, saying be careful, and you, without knowing it, might live by those notes. The truth is, every cell in your body carries memory. Every cell holds information, not just from your life, but from your lineage. And every thought you think is either repeating that memory or rewriting it. That's why awareness is power. When you realize this fear isn't mine, or this belief didn't begin with me, you interrupt the inheritance. You stop being a carrier of the past and become a creator of the new. Let's take a real-world example. In many cultures, there's a belief that certain groups aren't good with money or don't belong in certain spaces. But those are not truths. They are programs, born from centuries of conditioning, reinforced by trauma and survival. A collective nervous system was shaped by oppression, by fear, by systemic scarcity, and that emotional imprint became a generational pattern. It's not just history, it's hardware. And it continues to run until someone like you pauses and asks, is this belief still true, or is it just old code? Every time you challenge a limiting belief, you are performing neurological alchemy. You are telling your brain, we are safe to live differently now. You are updating the emotional software that once kept you small. But this work requires courage, because stepping outside the program feels like dying to the self. And in a way, it is. You're dying to the self that was built by fear, so the self built by freedom can emerge. That's why change feels uncomfortable. It's not resistance, it's rewiring. The brain is literally breaking old connections and forming new ones. You're not crazy, you're transforming. And this transformation doesn't just affect you. When you heal a belief, your biology shifts. Your nervous system calms. Your energy field changes. And that new coherence radiates outward, signaling safety to those around you, your children, your relationships, even your DNA. Healing is contagious. It's an energetic inheritance, and you are the bridge between what was and what can be. So, if the brain is hardware and the subconscious is software, then awareness is the programmer. Then, for the first time in human history, we understand this scientifically. We can observe neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself. We can measure genetic expression, how belief and emotion alter biology. We can even record coherence, the synchronization of heart and mind. When you embody love, gratitude, presence, the ancients called this ascension. Science now calls it neuroplasticity. Both are describing the same phenomenon, the human capacity to evolve consciously. So the question becomes, if your mind is programmable, what new program do you want to run? If your genes respond to emotion, what signal will you send? Okay. And if your past wrote the code, can your awareness write the update? Because the next stage of evolution isn't physical, it's perceptual. It's remembering that consciousness isn't the passenger of biology, it's the driver. Every morning, you wake up inside the same frequency of thoughts. They start even before your eyes open. Subtle whispers that sound like you, but aren't you. The same worries, the same plans, the same internal script that says, "Here we go again." Science estimates that you think around 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and 90% of them are the same as the day before. That's not coincidence, that's programming. You see, thoughts are electrical impulses. Emotions are the magnetic charge that draws experiences of similar vibration. Together, they create your electromagnetic field, your personal reality. But here's the catch. Your personality, how you think, how you act, and how you feel, is what keeps recreating that same field day after day. So if nothing within you changes, nothing outside of you can. The loop begins like this. A thought triggers a feeling. That feeling triggers a behavior. That behavior creates an experience. That experience reinforces the original thought. Round and round it goes, like an emotional orbit. Let's say you carry an old program of unworthiness. A single thought, "I'm not enough," triggers the familiar emotion of shame. Your body remembers that frequency because it's been rehearsed for years. So you shrink, you hesitate, you hold back. And when life reflects that same limitation, when someone overlooks you, when an opportunity slips away, the mind says, "See, I was right." The belief feeds the experience, and the experience feeds the belief. The brain loves repetition. It finds safety in the predictable, even if the predictable hurts. That's why growth feels uncomfortable, because it threatens the familiarity that the nervous system associates with safety. Your body doesn't crave happiness. It craves what it knows. So when you try to change, to think differently, act differently, choose differently, your subconscious resists, not because it hates you, but because it thinks you're endangering the system. It whispers, "This isn't who we are. Stay small. Stay safe." And most people obey that whisper their entire lives. They live in mental repetition, calling it reality. They experience the same emotional weather forecast every day, a storm of memories looping inside their cells. They try to change the world around them, but never the code within them. But once you understand the mechanism, you begin to see the way out. Because the loop depends on unconsciousness. It needs you to be asleep at the wheel. The moment you become aware of the thought, you step out of the loop. Observation dissolves identification. That is the first act of liberation, to see the thought as data, not destiny. You start to realize this emotion is just an echo. It's not the truth of who I am. And the moment you do, your brain begins to lose the grip of that old neural pathway. Neuroscience calls this synaptic pruning, the process by which unused neural connections fade away. While new ones grow through repetition of new patterns, it's as if your mind is saying, we no longer need that code. But awareness alone isn't enough. Awareness is the key that opens the door. Action is the step that walks through it. So how do you rewrite the program? There's a rhythm to it. 3 sacred stages that mirror both science and spirit. Observe, choose, rehearse. 1. Observe the pattern. Every time you notice an old emotional reaction, rising, irritation, fear, guilt, don't judge it. Pause and witness it. Feel where it lives in your body. Name it. This is the energy of my old self. By doing that, you're bringing the unconscious into consciousness. You're watching the code in real time instead of letting it run. Observation is the purest act of awareness. It tells your brain, we are safe to look. 2. Choose a new response. This is where transformation begins. In that pause, you get to decide, if I were already free, how would I think right now? How would I feel? How would I act? It's not about faking positivity. It's about shifting identity. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to repetition and emotion. So when you act differently, even a small action, you're sending a new signal through your nervous system. You're telling your body there's a new program now. Every small conscious choice, taking a breath instead of reacting, speaking truth instead of shrinking, forgiving instead of replaying, is a line of new code. 3. Rehearse until it becomes automatic. This is the hardest stage because the body will resist. It craves the chemical comfort of old emotions, like an addict craving the familiar rush of fear or anger. That's why healing can feel worse before it feels better. You're detoxing from the identity that pain created. But every time you persist, you strengthen new neural pathways. You literally rewire your brain. You teach your cells a new emotional signature. And one day, what used to feel unnatural peace, self-worth ease, becomes your new default setting. This is the essence of neuroplasticity, the mind's sacred ability to change itself through focused awareness and repetition. It's science proving what spirituality has whispered for millennia. Energy follows intention. As you practice your electromagnetic field, your vibration shifts. And the outer world, being a mirror of that field, begins to rearrange accordingly. Synchronicities appear. New opportunities unfold. People who once triggered you no longer do. It's not magic, it's mechanics. You change the frequency, so the external reality has no choice but to match it. This is the moment when the program starts to collapse. The emotional patterns that once ruled your life begin to dissolve, not because you fought them, but because you outgrew them. The mind begins to serve the soul instead of imprisoning it. But liberation requires practice and patience, because every time you choose differently, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your chemistry, your genes, your lineage. You're sending a message back through time. The cycle ends here. And that is the essence of awakening. Not escaping the program, but learning to rewrite it from within. Because you were never just the character. You were the coder all along. There comes a moment on every path of awakening when you realize you're not here to fix the old self. You're here to outgrow it. You've spent years trying to solve the same pain from inside the same identity that created it. like trying to rewrite code while the program is still running. But true transformation doesn't come from resistance. It comes from remembering that you can close the old window entirely and open a new one. Everything that has ever limited you was learned, and everything learned can be unlearned. Your mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. That's not a spiritual metaphor, it's neuroscience. When you visualize an experience with emotional intensity, the same neural networks fire as if it were happening physically. Your body begins to believe the future before it arrives. That's the sacred technology of creation, imagination as rehearsal. It's how athletes prepare for impossible feats. It's how mystics enter states of grace. And it's how you reprogram your mind to live as your future self instead of your past. Because the past is just memory stored in the body, and the future is memory created by choice. And in between them now is the laboratory of transformation. So, what if you began to live today as if you were already free? As if every breath carried the vibration of peace. Every thought was aligned with abundance. Every movement came from worthiness instead of fear. What if you could feel gratitude for a future you haven't yet seen, knowing that the body can't tell the difference? That's not pretending. That's programming. You're teaching your biology a new emotional reality. This is how you build coherence, the alignment between thought and feeling, brain and heart. When your thoughts of love, safety, and wholeness are matched by emotions of love, safety, and wholeness, you create an electromagnetic resonance, a measurable field of harmony. Science can detect it. The heart's magnetic field extends several feet beyond the body. But more importantly, you can feel it. It feels like calm. It feels like truth. It feels like home. And when you live from that state, life responds. The external world begins to rearrange to mirror that internal coherence. You attract people who match your peace instead of your pain. You make decisions from intuition rather than fear. You stop chasing outcomes because you realize you were never meant to chase. You were meant to magnetize. This is not mystical wishful thinking. It's bioenergetic law. Coherence organizes chaos. When your energy field is coherent, it sends a clear signal into the quantum field, the invisible sea of energy that connects all things. That signal becomes a pattern, a vibration that draws matching experiences toward you. This is what the mystics meant when they said, "As within, so without." It's what physics calls resonance. And suddenly, what once felt like coincidence begins to feel like alignment. You meet the right person at the perfect time. Opportunities flow without force. Inner clarity translates into outer order. Not because life changed, because you did. But here's the paradox. You can't reach this state by trying to fix the old program. You reach it by embodying the new one, by becoming, in every breath, the version of you who already lives in the vibration you seek. That means speaking differently, not from fear, but from awareness. It means moving differently, not reacting, but responding. It means feeling differently, allowing gratitude before the manifestation, not after it. When you do this consistently, your brain begins to accept the new identity as truth. Your neurons fire in new patterns. Your hormones shift. Your genetic expression changes. And your external life begins to reorganize around that new internal order. This is how personal reality evolves. Not by effort, by frequency. Not by willpower, by embodiment. Because you can't create a new reality from the vibration of the old one. You must become the vibration first. Every time you choose presence over projection, love over fear, curiosity over control, you're rewriting code. You're sending a new signal through your cells, through your lineage, through time itself. You're saying to the old program, "Thank you for protecting me. but I'm safe now. And when the body finally believes that, when safety becomes your new emotional baseline, the healing completes itself. That's when joy returns naturally. Not as a high, but as a home frequency. That's when purpose begins to emerge organically. Not from ambition, but from coherence. You begin to live as the conscious creator, not the unconscious survivor. You stop replaying the past and start designing the present. You realize that destiny isn't written in stars, it's written in synapses. And those can change with every breath of awareness. And maybe that's what this whole awakening really is. Not becoming something new, but remembering who you were before the programming, before the fear, before the conditioning, before the inherited pain. The self that existed before the story. That's the rebirth of identity. It's when you stop saying, "I'm trying to heal," and start saying, "I am already whole." Because healing isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. And the real you has never been broken. So the next time the old thoughts appear, let them come. Watch them like passing weather. You don't need to fight the storm. Just remember that you are the sky. Let the mind do what it does. Calculate, protect, recall. Let consciousness, that infinite awareness behind it, steer the ship. That's the balance of science and spirit. Understanding how the machine works so you can use it as the soul intended. You are not your trauma. You are the consciousness that witnessed it and still remained. You are not your beliefs. You are the awareness that can choose new ones. You are not your genes. You are the vibration that tells them how to sing. So, breathe. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm is the universe coding itself through you. One moment, one thought, one choice at a time. And if you've made it here, to this point, it means the program is already changing. Because awareness is the update. And you, the conscious observer, the soul behind the story, are the author of every new line of code to come. So live as your future self today. Speak from the vibration of wholeness. Walk with the knowing that your biology is listening. And remember, every time you choose presence over the past, the entire field of your life shifts toward freedom. You are the programmer now. And the system, your mind, your lineage, your reality, is waiting for your next command. If this message found you at the right time, it's because you're ready to remember. If these words resonated somewhere deep, it's because your soul has been whispering this truth for lifetimes. So keep listening. Keep choosing awareness. And if this voice spoke to you, share it. So someone else lost inside their own loop can find the same doorway back to themselves. Like, comment, subscribe. Not as an algorithmic act, but as a ripple of resonance. Because every mind awakened sends a signal that rewrites the collective code. And this is how humanity upgrades.